I call this meeting to order. This is the Livingston Parish Council meeting. Today is April the 11th, 2019. It is a few minutes after 6:30 p.m. All right. Invocation. All right.
Miss Sandy's gonna do it.
All right. Miss Sandy's gonna
Thank you, Miss Sandy.
have our invocation.
Please.
Heavenly Father, Lord, we have so many things to be thankful for. Thank you for your grace and your mercy and your hand upon our parish. Lord, we just pray that you would be with each one of the council members this evening. You would be with our legal counsel and our parish president. Lord, help them, give them wisdom so that they can make good decisions on behalf of the people that they represent. Lord, I pray that you would just continue to help us with our walk and know how to be the best that we can be. Because, Lord, it's all about you. Lord, help our work not be in vain, Lord, because it's all about you, Lord. And it's in Jesus' name we pray.
Amen. Amen. All right. Next, we have the Pledge of Allegiance, and we have a special guest tonight that we would ask to come forward to the podium and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And his name happens to be Christian Jones. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you, Christian.
Thank you, Chris. There we go. Got him.
All right. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ard.
Here.
Mr. King.
Here.
Mr. Girlinghouse.
Here.
Mr. Talbert.
Here.
Mr. Mack.
Here.
Mr. Wascom. Mr. Lovell.
Here.
Mr. Harris.
Here.
Mr. Avery.
Here.
All right. We would ask that everyone silence their cell phones, put them on vibrate, or turn them off so that we don't have any interruptions during the meeting tonight. Okay. Public input. I'd like to go over public input. If anyone has wishes to address any agenda items tonight, what you can do when that particular item comes up for discussion, you can just simply raise your hand like this, and we will call upon you, and you can come to the podium and introduce yourself and tell us your address and everything, and then we'll give everybody equal time to address their concerns, about that particular agenda item. Okay? So that's how we address public input. Agenda item number 7, presentations. Doesn't look like we have any presentations tonight. Oh wait, Mr. Gary Frog Talbot has something to say
I
about
want to say
that.
something. I want to wish my mother a happy 79th birthday and apologize that I'm not there tonight because I'm at the council meeting. But I want to wish my mom
Happy birthday.
a 79th birthday.
Well, hopefully we'll see that one day, Gary. 79, that's a long time.
All right, agenda item number 8, adoption of the minutes from the March 28th, 2019 regular meeting of the council. Any discussion on this topic?
Make a motion.
All right, we have a motion by Tracy Girlinghouse. We adopt these minutes. We have a second by Mr. Jeff Ard. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Good. All right. Agenda item number 9. Adopt a resolution approving the relocation of voting precinct 34 from its temporary location of French Settlement High School gym to its previous location established at the French Settlement Village Hall in Council District 6. Vanessa Bennett, Clerk Barnett,
Yes.
Clerk of Court, Elections Department.
And
Okay.
she didn't need to be here for that.
All right.
I'll make it motion.
All right, so is there any discussion? None? Good. All right, we have a motion on the floor to adopt that resolution by Mr. Jeff Everett. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Mr. Tracy Girlinghouse. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, move on forward. Agenda item number 10, the parish president's report. Mr. Leighton Ricks. Mr. Leighton Ricks has requested we go into executive session.
Do we need a motion for that?
Do we need a motion for that?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion by Scooter King we go into executive session. We have a second by Mr. Jeff Everett. And what we're going to do to help out the audience is we're going to go to the back into the meeting room for this executive session. and allow everybody else to remain in here, comfortable, and hopefully we will be right back.
Did you say?
All right, so we got to call for the vote to do that, my bad.
It's okay.
Mr.
So-
Ard?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Greenhouse?
Yes.
Mr. Talbot?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Lovell?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Avery?
Yes.
We have a motion on the floor to close the executive session.
I'll second.
We have a second. Well, that motion was by Mr. Jeff Ard.
Let's go back to the regular agenda.
I'll make it.
We were going to close the executive session first, and then vote on going back to the regular agenda. We have a second by Mr. Gary Frog Talbot to close the executive session. I call for the vote.
Mr. Ard?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Greenhouse?
Yes.
Mr. Talbot?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Lovell?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Avery?
Yes.
All
I'd
right.
like to make a motion to go back to regular session.
We have a motion on the floor by Mr. Gary Frog Talbot to go back to the regular Livingston Parish Council meeting. We have a second by Mr. Jeff Averett. I call for the vote on that one too.
Mr. Ard?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Greenhouse?
Yes.
Mr. Talbot?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Lovell?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Avery?
Yes.
All right. We have Mr. Leighton Ricks at the podium to discuss 10A.
Thank you, council. I'd like to ask you to authorize me by resolution to negotiate and sign a contract with special legal counsel for arbitration in reference to inundated roads from disaster 4277, August of 16.
All right. Do we have a motion on the floor to adopt that resolution? We have a motion by Mr. Scooter King to adopt that resolution. We have a second by Mr. Bubba Harris. I call for the vote.
Mr. Ard?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Greenhouse?
Yes.
Mr. Talbot?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Lovell?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Avery?
Yes.
Thank you, council.
All right.
Item B, would ask you for a resolution to sign a CEA with Albany for residential and commercial building code enforcement. Our office has agreed to assist them. Obviously, they will pay the cost. Councilman Mack, you want to elaborate a little bit on that? I know that's your district. Would you like to?
I certainly will. Okay, so what we have here is, the town of Albany, had a building inspector who resigned. And so like other small municipality, government entities like Springfield and Livingston and Prince Settlement, the parish provides the, building inspector for a certain fee. And so the town of Albany would like to also do that. And so that's what this resolution is about. Does anybody have any questions about this? Oh, we have someone that would like to ask a question. So come on up and introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Deidre Sellers. I live at 26025 Burlwood Avenue in Denham. I guess my main question, I know you explained a little bit, but like how exactly does this work when you are signing this, the code enforcement? Like how much authority does the parish have? And will it go through the planning commission? If so, will the parish have the power to grant waivers? And if they don't meet the standards, et cetera, could you just speak to that?
I'd like to answer those questions to the best of my knowledge, if it's okay with Mr. Layton.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Those are great questions, by the way. Okay, so the town of Albany, they have their own council, they're their own government entity, and they have their own mayor, okay? They also have their own planning commission, and they are responsible for their development within their district, okay? So when it comes to their ordinances, you know, the parish doesn't get involved with variances to their ordinances or anything to that nature. Can you repeat a couple of your other questions to make sure I answered all of them?
Yeah, I asked about how much authority the parish would have, and then I think you spoke to the fact that it wouldn't go through the parish's planning commission, it would go through theirs.
Right, right. So they are required, kind of like us, we're a separate government entity. You know, they have to follow the state laws, and they would have to follow the laws of their own town, their ordinances.
All we're gonna be doing is reviewing and inspecting
what they're doing, their residential and commercial buildings.
So I
Correct.
think what she asked is how
They're gonna
much
have-
authority would our review engineer have? Would it be just as if they had their own review?
Correct. I think the issue is they don't have a certified inspector right now.
That's
Consequently,
right.
they're gonna sell the permits, we're gonna go do the inspection
And
process.
if it don't meet it, then they gonna
And if
turn
we
it
tell
back.
you no, then it's, you're gonna fix it just like if we told you no in Livingston.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
only,
That-
we're gonna,
Right.
I think basically, we're gonna provide the certified inspector, basically all that's gonna happen.
Yeah,
That's right.
just reviewing
Okay,
the
good.
inspection.
Yep,
They'll still do their own planning and all.
Thank you.
thank you very much. Okay, so do we have a motion on the floor to authorize the parish president to sign that CEA?
I'll make that motion.
All right, we got a motion on the floor by Mr. Jeff Average.
I'll second.
We have a second by
Tracy.
Mr. Tracy Girlinghouse. I call for the vote on that.
You having trouble with that, Mike?
Mr. R.
That's your mic.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Girlinghouse.
Yes.
Mr. Talbot.
Yes.
Mr. Mack.
Yes.
Mr. Lovell.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Avery.
Yes.
All right, good job. All right,
C.
10C, go ahead, please.
Like for a resolution proclaiming April 2019 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Livingston Parish. I'd like to ask you young ladies to come up. I have a proclamation for them that I would like to read, if that's okay.
Yes, sir.
Whereas the community cares deeply about the prevention of child abuse, and the majority reports that child abuse is a very important moral issue to them. Whereas preventing child abuse and neglect is a community problem that depends on involvement among people throughout our community. Whereas child abuse and neglect not only directly harms children, but also increases the likelihood of long-term physical and mental health problems, alcohol and substance abuse, continued family violence, and criminal behavior. Whereas the effects of child abuses are felt by whole communities and need to be addressed by the entire community. Whereas the majority of child abuse cases stem from situations and conditions that are preventable in an engaged and supportive community. Whereas child abuse and neglect can be reduced by making sure each family has the support they need for raising their children in a safe, nurturing environment. Whereas effective child abuse prevention programs succeed because of partnerships created among social service agencies, schools, faith communities, civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community. Whereas all citizens should become more aware of the negative effects of child abuse and its prevention within the community, and become involved in supporting parents to raise their children in a safe, nurturing environment. Therefore, I, Leighton Ricks, Livingston Parish President, do hereby proclaim April as Child Abuse Prevention Month, and call upon all citizens, community agencies, faith groups, medical facilities, and businesses to increase their participation in our efforts to support families, hereby preventing child abuse and strengthening the communities in which we live. And I will present this to you all, but I think you want to say, do y'all want to vote on that resolution first?
Yes. We have a motion on the floor by Mr. Jeff R. to accept that resolution to proclaim April 2019 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Livingston Parish. We have a second by Mr. Tracy Girlinghouse. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Certainly not.
Thank you, Council. She'd like to say just a couple of words, Ms. Starnes.
Thank you, Councilman. I'm Monica Starnes, and this is also one of my co-workers, Letitia Hester. We are supervisors in the Livingston Parish with CASA. I wanted to just share with you our thanks for the proclamation signing today, and also share with you some of our numbers that our agency has done in the last year in 2018. Child Advocacy Services is an umbrella agency that offers the CASA program that gives a voice to children in foster care, and also our Child Advocacy Center that does forensic interviews on children who have either experienced abuse or neglect or been witness to a crime. Last year in 2018, our CASA program served 550 children in the parishes that we served. And then we conducted 738 forensic interviews with our program, as where there's been a lot of media coverage about the devastating amount of children that are in foster care in Livingston Parish. And we appreciate everybody who has come out and supported us in proclaiming April as Child Abuse Prevention Month. I think the first and foremost to get people involved is to get them to understand what child abuse is and how to engage with the community. So thank you guys, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
And may we get a picture, is that
Sure.
okay?
John?
I'm gonna give this.
Yeah,
I don't know what side they're There we go.
All right, we good?
Good, awesome.
Never need
Thank you
more.
so much.
Lauren in the back getting a big shot.
Council, trying to get a picture.
She counted.
Thank you so much.
Nice to meet y'all. Thank you, council.
Yes, sir.
I really do like it.
Okay, item agenda number 11, Livingston Parish Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness. We have the infamous Mr. Mark Harold coming to the podium.
Yes, sir. Welcome. I'm in your presence. No, I want to introduce myself as Mark Harold. I'm with the Office of Homeland Security. I hadn't been here in a while. Just want to make sure you didn't forget about me.
Oh, how could we? How could we?
I don't know. But what we have tonight, we've discussed the two projects, the one on Amid River and then also on Blind River at the mouth of the lake. This is a mixture of two different fundings, the big funding being the Go Mesa that was discussed a while back, and the other one is just a restore funding. It's BP money as well. We ran everything out, and you should have the bid tabulation sheet, I hope. And Fortin Tablata was the one with the highest score. So I would like to get a resolution tonight to authorize Mr. Ricks to sign a contract with them. Now, once we negotiate and sign the contract, as you can see, it's got to go to two federal entities for their blessings, and when they give us the approval, we'll move forward with it. But we'd like to get started on this as soon as we can.
That Go Mesa money was put in the budget for this year, so the Go Mesa funds are available.
That's what it was for.
I'll make the motion.
All right, is there any discussion from the audience on this particular topic? No? Good. So we have a motion by Mr. Gary Talbert.
I'll say.
We have a second by Mr. Bubba Harris. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No? Good. All right.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and council, and I'm gonna tell you again, I love each one of you. Mr. Talbot, you too.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
It's been a true pleasure to
Love you
work
too,
with you.
I
Mark.
love you too, Mark.
Thank you for what you do.
It's been a
Wait
true
minute.
pleasure.
That's
It's
on
recorded,
TV?
yes.
He said it.
That's on TV.
You know that's the first time?
I hear you.
Thank you.
Hey,
Thank you.
I had my pink shirt out today and was trying to get it unwrinkled in the dryer, made it worse. So that's why I'm not in it. I was really ready.
If he'd just
Well,
brought it to me, I'd have taken care of it.
Well, no, these projects, once completed, is really gonna help out the town of Watson. Yeah, right, Gary?
Oh, yeah, I mean,
That-
yeah, I'm gonna tell you what, the Amy River, that clog at the end down there really affects the water in Watson. But we're glad to get that drainage and restoration project resolved.
Restoration, yeah.
All right,
Thank
it really is a good thing. Thanks for everybody.
Thank you,
All
Mark. Thank
right,
you very much.
It
All right.
really will help my area.
Yes, it will.
it really will.
Yeah.
Planning Commission recommendations, we have a substitute tonight, for Mr. Sam DiGeronimo. Miss Natalie, would you
She's not on
introduce
that.
yourself?
She's no substitute, she just takes it.
I'm Natalie Allen, I'm with the planning department.
All right. Okay. Item agenda 12A. All right. This happens to be in my district. Do you want to lead this? You want me to try to, you got this? 12A happens to be in my district. You want to talk about it a little bit?
It's for Miss Pauline Frisbee. She's wanting to add a lot on the servitude for her niece, is what I understand.
That's right. So what we have here, this is for a waiver of lots on the servitude, guys. There will wind up being 6 instead of, there's currently 5 now. This will wind up making 6. But this happens to be for a niece that's going to be moving into a house. You know, it's family land off of George White Road. So you can see that the Plan Commission was in favor. And so do we have a motion on the floor to accept this waiver?
I'll make that motion.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Scooter King. Do we have a second? We have a second by Mr. Tab Lobel. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No? Okay.
Every time.
All right. Item agenda number 12B. Want to talk a little bit about that one?
It's for Mr. Robbie Schillings on Surrey Drive. It was a recommendation of the Planning Commission to approve. It's in Mr. Gary's district.
We got a little issue with this. This came before, they're trying to drain the sewer for the 3 additional lots of that side public ditch. And there was some concern as to whether that ditch was being maintained by Gravity 2. And Gravity 2 has maintained the ditch in the past, is not currently maintaining the ditch because the Schillings have put a lot of stuff in the servitude. So I would request that we defer this item until the Schillings get the servitude cleared so Gravity 2 can go in and cut the ditch. What we do not need to do is introduce 3 more sewer, mechanical sewer treatment plants draining into a ditch that isn't being maintained, creating an additional breeding ground for mosquitoes.
I agree.
All right, so
I agree.
is that a motion?
Motion to defer.
Motion to defer item number 12B. Do we have a second?
I don't think you need that.
You don't have.
We don't need to vote on this?
We just, what we
Want
do,
to, you can.
Just-
but-
All right, I'll
Just
second
defer
it.
it.
Call for
But I do
vote.
have a question. So
Go ahead.
that Gravity 2 was maintaining it and now they're not?
Gravity 2 did maintain it. Gravity 2 actually has a servitude on the ditch. The problem is the servitude is full of stuff and they cannot gain access. So
Fences?
yeah, stuff like that. Fences, little,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
so,
Well, there
I
you
mean,
go.
it's the individuals that have blocked the servitude that want the 3 additional lots. So, you know, if you want the lots to drain sewer into, you need to get the servitude clear so Gravity 2 can clean the ditch.
Agreed.
Agreed. Okay.
Okay, so we have a second by Scooter King. Is there any discussion from the audience on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Item 12C. Now, this one here happens to be in Mr. Jeff Averett's district. Do you have anything to say about that, Mr. Jeff?
It's preliminary plat.
Okay. You want to say something about that, Natalie?
It was a recommendation of the Planning Commission to approve the preliminary plat for Arbor Walk 7.
All right, is there any discussion from the audience? Oh, there is. Come on up.
Hello, everyone. Muriel Laws, 26253 Popular Glen Drive. I just wanted to ask some questions since I'm finding my way through this. Exactly can you explain what the preliminary plat means as far as construction? Is that what it's for? And if that's the case, is that supposed to be what the next 3 sections of 4 is for construction?
Chad, did you want to, or Gary, did y'all want to comment on that? Chad, you want to come say something on that?
Yeah, the preliminary plat phase is a very initial phase. You still have 2 steps after that, drainage impact study and then construction plans, and that's when the construction plan phase is what you might be talking about. But this preliminary plat phase is just a very initial phase for y'all to kind of give a blessing on the schematic layout of the subdivision. The next phase will be the drainage impact study and the construction plans, and that's when you get into the details of what's going to get built. This is just giving you a general layout and where it falls and where the things are gonna be, where the lot's gonna be shaped and all that.
So Mango falls between two existing streets. Does it butt up into two streets that are already existing now?
That's
Chad?
correct, yeah.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Okay, thanks. All right,
I'll make that motion.
so do we have a motion
So, Mr.
to, adopt a resolution for the Plan Commission to approve this preliminary plat?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Jeff Avery.
I said,
We have a second by Mr. Gary Croft Calvert. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No? Good. All right, 12D.
It's Hunter's Ridge subdivision, second filing off of Joe May Road, and it was the recommendation of the planning commission to approve the preliminary plat.
Okay, Mr. Jeff Avery, this is also in your district. Your district seems to be growing significantly,
I'll make that motion.
and you are making a motion. Is there any discussion from the audience on this particular agenda item? No? Okay. We have a motion on the floor to approve the preliminary plat for Hunter's Ridge, second filing. We have a second by Mr. Jeff Ard. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay. 12E.
This is a commercial development, RKM Primary Care off of Highway 63. It's a recommendation of the planning commission to approve the preliminary site plan.
This also happens to be in Mr. Jeff Avery's district.
well, if you got all the people moving in, you gotta have a place for them to get some medical
I
attention.
agree.
This puts it closer to my house, I don't have to drive another mile.
Is there any discussion from the audience? No? So we have a recommendation, we have a motion by Mr. Jeff Avery to approve the preliminary site plan for RKM Primary Care. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Scooter King. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Got more? Okay. Agenda item 13A, Planning Department, Greenleaf subdivision. You want to say something about that, Natalie?
Yeah, we're asking to accept the roads and improvements and release the bond.
Okay. They're asking to accept the road into the parish maintenance system and improvements into the maintenance system and release the bond. Is there any discussion from the audience on this particular agenda item? We do have somebody that would like to say something on this. Come on up.
Hello, gentlemen. Again, Deidre Sellers, 26025 Burwood. My question is kind of all-encompassing for any roads and improvements that y'all want to accept into the maintenance system this evening, so I'm not going to repeat myself as we go over that points this evening. But with regard to the improvements and the acceptance in the maintenance system, my question is, have the inspections been done on these roads already? And if so, do you have reports on that? You do.
Chad, can you answer those questions?
Well, Natalie,
Well, Natalie, you got that?
She's the one, they the ones that do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll be able to pick those up at what office if we wanted to just
You
look
can do
over?
a public records request with
Okay.
the parish president's office.
Yep, I know how to do that, cool. All right. And in that, also, have you considered any additional filings and/or damage that could be caused by the future construction on those roads?
I'll answer that question. Basically, what they do is when a subdivision comes into acceptance, if there's gonna be additional filing, DPW go out and film the existing road. And then before the next section is accepted, the review of the film will be done compared to what's there, and any damage will be the responsibility of the developer to take care of that. And I think we've even considered, we've expanded that to go into the contractor that's building the homes past that, haven't we, Chad? Yes, sir. So, I mean, that's how we're doing it. After we get a road in the system, if it's gonna be utilized for a construction entrance, then we'll film that road and we'll utilize that initial film against the results after the construction's done to determine any additional damage.
Okay, So, and all of that is put into a report somewhere, or you just keep the video?
I mean, the DPW will keep a video. Basically, what we're doing is we're taking in Greenleaf's as it is right now, and until there's another filing, we won't record the road. We'll come record the road prior to construction, if there's another filing behind it, and we'll maintain that in our records so that we can evaluate it after the construction's finished of the next section, so we can compare.
Okay, so, like I said, that wasn't specific to Greenleaf's, but I wanted to
But it's
ask a question
specific,
about
but it
the-
happens on every subdivision we do.
Right, okay. All right, thank you, gentlemen.
All right.
That happens to be in my district.
Oh, that happens to be in Mr. Bubba Harris's district.
So, I'm all for motion to go ahead and accept this.
All right, is there any more discussion? All right, we have a motion on the floor to accept Greenleaf subdivision, road and improvements into the parish maintenance system. We have a second by Mr. Jeff Averett. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Nope. All right. Agenda item 13B, the sanctuary.
Did we release the maintenance bond?
Yeah, I think the motion was to
Yeah,
accept
the motion
and
was for
release.
both, right?
I didn't hear.
It was to accept and
Right.
release.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got clarification on that. Anytime you need clarification, you just ask for it. So yeah, the motion was also to release the maintenance bond.
Do it the same way on there.
Yeah. All right. The sanctuary at Juban Crossing, first filing. This is also to accept the road and improvements into the parish maintenance system and release the maintenance bond. Is there any discussion from the audience? No? Any discussion from the council?
Yes. I mean, but usually Mr. Sam's always asked the same question, thinking it to be rhetorical, but nonetheless I ask, so everything is on the, for us to release it, y'all, I think everything is as it should be, and we are okay to release this bond back to the developer, right?
Correct.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion on the floor by Mr. Tracy Girlinghouse to accept this road into the parish maintenance system and release the bond. We have a second by Mr. Gary Talbot. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you so much, Miss Natalie.
Keep
You
going
did an
on.
outstanding job.
Have a good weekend.
All right, agenda item 14. Okay, we'll now enter a public hearing, adoption of LP ordinance number 19-09. Sandy, could you read this ordinance, please?
Yes. This is an ordinance to amend chapter 13, planning and development, article 1 in general, section 13-3, streets, quitclaims, servitude, and rights of way revocation procedure that combines the parish planning department's filing fee, official journal publication fees, and clerk of court filing fees, and also adds PDF requirements for the survey map indicating the area to be revocated of the code of ordinances in and for the parish of Livingston.
All right, is there any discussion from the audience on this particular agenda item?
That's amazing.
No? Is there any
That was-
discussion? Is there any discussion from the council?
I'll make a
Close the
motion.
meeting. Gotta close the meeting.
All right,
Just
So-
close the public
I will
hearing.
now close the public hearing. All right. So do we have a motion on
I'll
the
make a
floor
motion.
to adopt this, to adopt this ordinance? We have a motion by Mr. Gary Talbot to make the, we have a second by Mr. Scooter King to adopt this ordinance.
Aye.
All right, I'll call for the vote on this one.
Mr. Ard,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Girlinghouse,
Yes.
Mr. Talbot,
Yes.
Mr. Mack,
Yes.
Mr. Lobel,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Averett.
Yes.
All right. Agenda item number 15, introduction of ordinance. Amend section 11-2, speed of boats by reducing idle zone to 300 feet from intersection of the diversion canal to Blind River. And this happens to be Mr. Tab Lobel's district.
Yeah, we got a good group of guys at Waterway Commission to kind of look at some of this kind of stuff, and since Blind River Bar burned, there is a 500-foot long dock, so they had it 500 foot from the dock, then an additional 300 feet past that. So we're gonna bring it down to the normal 300 feet from an intersection of waterways. So instead of having to sweat for 800 feet, you can sweat for 300, actually it's 600. You gotta make the turn, you got another 300, so it makes for a pretty long idle zone.
So Tab,
It's just not necessary.
if,
Right.
is that based on the fact that Blind River Bar is not there, and if it gets reconstructed, y'all would
Right.
then revisit?
Yeah, you can revisit it. It becomes a place of business again. But what's good, they do still have all that dock there people tie up to, but they still have 300 feet of idle zone that they can
Right,
tie up in. So it's,
that's plenty.
lucky for them, it's at an intersection. They still have that option.
Yeah.
So,
And a lot of that comes from wildlife and fisheries too. That intersection there is pretty rough, it's a lot of boat traffic,
Mhm.
and they would rather keep it an idle zone there.
Then get rid
And
of
I
all
agree
of
too.
it. Yeah, I get you. Okay.
That makes sense.
Okay. Sandy, can you read this ordinance?
Can I mention one little thing that we wanted to change?
Yes.
There's one little baby word we wanted to change, what we're adding, and it states, and also from that intersection, 300 feet up current, we have 2 diversion canal, and it just needs to say one diversion canal before we introduce it. I wanted to make
Okay.
that rule.
Okay, yeah, definitely, definitely.
This will be proposed ordinance.
We were supposed to silence the cell phones at the beginning of the meeting.
I kind of wanted to keep hearing it, you know?
He got interested in it.
Go ahead, Sandy.
This is gonna be proposed ordinance 19-10, an ordinance to amend and reenact chapter 11 of the Code of Ordinances in and for the parish of Livingston, state of Louisiana, section 11-2A, the speed of boats, Blind River at the intersection of Diversion Canal, as set out more specifically herein. The public hearing is gonna be at 6:30 PM on April the 25th.
All right, so do we have a motion for that? Is there any discussion from the audience? We have a motion by Mr. Tab Lobel to introduce this ordinance, and we have a second by,
I'll second it. Or
we have a
Bubba-
second
Bubba can
by Mr. Bubba Harris. All right. Call for the vote on this?
Mr. Ard?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Greenhouse?
Yes.
Mr. Talbert?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Lobel?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Avery?
Yes.
All right. Agenda item number 16, adopt a resolution to name the extension of Linkwood Drive for 911 addressing purposes, approximately 3,400 feet to the end at the turnaround. This is located in Council District 3. Said addition will not to be maintained by the parish. This is in Mr.
That's in my
Maurice Scooter Keen's
Yeah,
district.
Gentleman bought like 120 acres back there off of Linkwood, but next to Beaver Creek. And he's building, I think he's putting 3 homes back there, private servitude all the way back. 3,400 feet long driveway to get to these 3. Built beautiful ponds and everything. And he just needs to get addresses, so we need to name the road Linkwood Extension, never be taken into parish maintenance. I don't know why it has to say never, because if they bring it up to parish standards in the future, it can be
Well,
revisited.
Is it
I totally
Linkwood
agree.
Extension or is it Linkwood Drive?
It's Linkwood Extension.
Okay.
That's what, I think, well, Natalie left, they went all through it and they said that it would be better just called Linkwood Extension. They may want to name it something else later.
No. What's the paperwork say?
Does it say Linkwood Drive Extension?
Extension of
Linkwood Drive.
So it's
Okay,
just-
so it'd be Linkwood Drive
Linkwood
Extension.
Drive.
branch off from it. or
No, it's
anything,
just long, it
extension.
just carries
So
on.
it's
Yeah.
still Linkwood Drive, but our
It's
book,
just an
our
extension.
book will still have the distance of what the actual.
3,400 feet
Of
and
what
what's
the
there
parish
now.
maintenance, and the
Okay.
additional 3,400
Right.
feet will
And
not be
So-
part of
additional
parish
footage
maintenance.
will not be maintained.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's-
after, that extra 3,400 feet won't be,
Just say not
No.
maintained.
No,
no, just leave it in there.
leave it in there, and then if they get it approved, if they get it up to stuff, then we'll take it in, but
That's a long road to get up to snuff, I can tell you.
I did ask of Wendy and that if we needed to name it an extension or drive, they said either one.
name it Linkwood Drive, because later on, it becomes a hassle to undo it. We had the same problem, just leave it.
With the
name it
one in
Linkwood
here.
Drive, and
Okay.
just-
I'm good with that.
The book will have what parts within the parish maintenance, what parts won't, so just leave it Linkwood
Yeah, I
Drive.
think it's about 400 feet of actually Linkwood right now. Yeah. All right, so I'll make a motion that,
Okay.
oh, you wanna?
No.
You need to
Yeah,
get
we need
public-
to see if there's any discussion from the audience. Is there any discussion from the audience on this?
Okay, I'll make a motion to,
We have a motion by Mr. Scooter
Adopt that
King to
resolution.
adopt this resolution to name this road Linkwood Drive.
I'll second.
We have a second by Mr. Bubba Harris. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. All right. Agenda item number 17. Adopt a resolution to add 2 no parking signs to Blossom Street located in Magnolia Estates in Council District 3 as per section 10-43 of the Code of Ordinances of the Parish of Livingston. This is also at Maurice Scooter King's district.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, a gentleman called me and there were people, it's a dead-end street. People were blocking, it's only about 15 feet wide and they park in 2 cars next to each other in the road. He can't even get out to go to work. So we need to place it, make a resolution to place these signs so that the sheriff has been out, but with no parking signs, there's nothing he can do because you park on the street. You know, so that's what it's gonna, it'll give them the right to, you know,
Move the
issue citations, get them out of the way, whatever they need to do.
All right.
So you make the motion?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Now, we have a motion by Mr. Scooter King to adopt this resolution. We have a second by Mr. Gary Talbert. Now, is there any discussion from the audience on this particular agenda item? No? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Nope. All right, good. Agenda item 18, discuss alcohol permit renewal process fees for MVETS Post 28 due to lapse in annual procurement from 2015 to 2018. Are we going to defer that,
We're gonna
Ted?
defer that one, and that's actually 68. So,
Post 68.
Post 68, but, yeah. we're
That's going to be deferred to the next council meeting?
I think so, yeah.
Is it, so Tab, was it the parish license they didn't have or the?
Correct, they got the state one, but, through some clerical stuff, they, and changes, they let the parish one lapse.
Okay. Are they currently open and operating without a parish license?
Don't think so.
Okay.
Okay.
There's always enough cars there for all kind of other stuff, but I don't think there was.
Is that the one right, is that the one right at,
They do, right there at 42 and 43, and they, parish trucks are always parked there for different things. You got, they do the, commodities on
I got you.
Catholic Charities run out of there, all kind of stuff. Ball fields are there, so there's always a lot of activity.
Always got people.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. So, agenda 18,
Just, yeah.
it's being deferred. Number 19, board appointments. Fire Protection District number 9, Tab Lobel.
Yep, it's down in Marpaw, and these guys just need to be reappointed. Brian Soley, Pat Luke, and Sean Bursajay all would like to continue serving down there. So I'd like to make that motion.
All right. We have a motion on the floor by Tab Lobel to reappoint the board members to the Fire Protection District number 9 as he requested or spoke.
I'll second that.
We have a second by Mr. Bubba Harris. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? 19B, Mosquito Abatement District 2 and 3 Board Appointment. Reappointment. Mr. Maurice Scooter King.
Yeah, I'd like to reappoint Mr. Sean Rebel to the mosquito board.
it's hard to imagine that we've got
It's
somebody
been a
served
year.
on there a year.
I know,
already.
it doesn't even seem like that.
Seemed like 10 years. I'd like to second that appointment.
Okay,
He wanted to continue, I asked him, he said absolutely, so.
all right, so we have a motion on the floor by Scooter King to reappoint Mr. Sean Rebel to the Mosquito Abatement District 2 and 3. And then we have a second by Mr. Gary Talbert. Now, before we vote, we're gonna ask if there's any discussion from the audience. Well, I just wanna make sure, man.
Okay.
Is there any more discussion from the council? All right. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No? All right. Recreation District 2, Mr. Gary Talbert.
Yeah, I've got an item on here. was actually gonna appoint somebody, except I've got 3 resumes from 3 young ladies, and I hadn't been able to sit down and interview them. However, y'all will notice Mr. Dean Irwin, term doesn't expire till February 13th of 2020. However, Mr. Irwin's probably missed all but 2 meetings over the last 2 years. So I would like to remove Mr. Irwin so that when we do have a chance to interview those young ladies, we'll be able to make an appointment.
You make a motion?
You made that motion?
Yeah, I make a motion to remove Mr. Irwin from the board.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to remove Mr. Irvin from the board. That is the Recreation District Number 2 board. That motion was made by Mr. Gary Talbert. The second was by Mr. Jeff Avery. Is there any discussion from the audience on that? Good. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Yep.
Hey Sandy, I'd like to make a clarification. If y'all notice, y'all got Chris Prescott and y'all say District 4. Mr. Prescott's address that y'all have listed is his business address, not his home address. His home address is actually inside District 2, so I will get you a new address for him, but let's note that Mr. Prescott is a resident of District 2 and not of District 4, because the reg district doesn't even touch into District 4.
No, yeah.
So I just want to get that, we'll get that clerical issue resolved.
Agenda item 20, District Attorney Report.
Nothing to report.
Nothing to report. Agenda item 21, Committee Reports. Ordinance Committee, Chair Gary Talbot.
The ordinance committee was supposed to meet tonight, but we didn't have a quorum, so we didn't. However, we want to introduce an ordinance that we had worked on and deferred last week till we got some wording straight. Ms. Morgan Sanchez with Fort Cablata made some corrections for us. If y'all will all notice and turn to the back page and look at the red writing under 1 and 2. This is basically some corrections Ms. Sanchez thought needed to be made. And if you'll go down to item C, you'll see that item C has been removed. Basically, she felt that we needed to put what was in C in 1 and 2, and also she wanted to add a provision that basically if you did fill mitigation within your own property, that you were exempt. So basically our concern was that there were people in the south and the east part of the parish, and to some extent the northern part of my district, that had large tracts of land, and that the 36 inches was going to be overly burdensome on them, because if you've got 5 or 6 acres and you're able to dig a pond and then be able to offset the amount of dirt you have from the static water line to the surface, that you're actually doing fill mitigation within your own property, and so you should be exempt from this ordinance. So, Chad, am I correct in that's what basically A does? Is that if you can generate your own fill mitigation within your own property, then you're exempt from the standard of how much dirt you can stack up. Because if we're stacking dirt and allowing place for water to go, then we're not impacting the floodplain at all. So I would like to make a motion to introduce, if Sandy would read it by title.
This is gonna be proposed ordinance 19-11. This is an ordinance to amend chapter 13, planning and development, article 5, flood damage prevention, section 13-76, methods of reducing flood losses, part 4, by establishing criteria for adding fill dirt to individual lots, tracts, parcels of land in and for the parish of Livingston. And the public hearing will be at 6:30 p.m. on April the 25th.
Is there any discussion from the audience on this particular agenda item?
Mr. Larry.
All right, Mr. Larry, you come on up and introduce yourself as Mr. Larry O'Neill. The address and everything.
Larry O'Neill, Mark Hall. Question on that part of the ordinance, you say dig a pond and use that to offset the part about field dirt. Is that pond going to be named a retention pond with the same guidelines that retention ponds would have in subdivisions?
Larry, basically what it is, if you can generate, I think the way that that she said it, is that an equal volume of storage. So you could dig a pond, but you're only gonna get credit from the static water line to the surface. So basically, if you dig, so basically what amounts is if the water starts rising, as long as you're able to capture in the pond an equal amount of water that's being offset by the dirt, then you have a net zero impact on the floodplain. Am I correct? And so basically, it would be ideal that we did this on everything, that you dug your dirt within your floodplain. The problem is, we don't have a floodplain manager, and we're just not that sophisticated. So basically, what we're doing until we get to that point is to protect our neighbors by limiting the fill, and then not hamstringing those individuals who can show where their net zero impact on the floodplain. And so I don't think that you should, if I can show that I'm gonna build a 12-foot pile of dirt, but if I'm net zero impact on the floodplain, then I should not, be penalized.
I bet what he's saying is, you can't have a full pond.
Yes.
No, you can't have a full pond. I mean, you're only gonna get credit, just like on retention from the static water line to the surface.
Gary, is that sometimes, I've seen it a lot, they'll have these ponds maybe have that much freefall. And that's not gonna retain a lot of water when you have that.
And I think that's why the ordinance is written. It says that it only gonna allow you equal dirt to what you have equal space. So it's, so you and I know that there's a natural water table. So if we dig a pond, we're gonna have water to a certain point on the natural table. And we're gonna give you credit from that point to the part where it runs over. And if that doesn't offset the dirt, then you're out of luck. You're only gonna be able to put dirt up.
Okay, so there's wording based on that offset.
Based on that. We're not letting you pile dirt that you don't offset. The whole purpose of that is if you have the space to do to do fill mitigation within your property and net zero impact, we don't wanna penalize you.
Okay.
Because ideally, if we were sophisticated enough, that's what we would do everywhere.
Yeah.
But so until we do that, we're gonna address it along the lines where we can.
No, that's my main concern, that would be addressed, that, it wouldn't have the capability to retain that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Is there any more discussion from the audience?
I have a question about 19C, but I didn't notice where you asked for input after that one. My name's Kristen Summers. I'm at 21411 LA Highway 1032.
Go ahead, what you got?
Okay, I'm curious, is it typical, because I don't know a whole lot about this, but I'm back here listening. Is it typical to remove someone from an appointment when no one has asked any questions except that he said that hasn't been in any meetings? I mean, do you have more information or have you done more research before you all voted to remove this man from an appointment?
If they miss so many meetings in a row.
I mean, do you have in front of you, how many meetings he's been to and how many he's missed?
I don't have it in front of me, but they said he only made 2 meetings in the whole last year.
Okay, that's what I was curious about, if anybody had verified that, because it seems like there's a potential for abuse if everyone has voted
So let me ask you a question. Do any of you guys think I'm lying?
You just interrupted me, I'm sorry.
I removed the guy last meeting because he missed 5 meetings in a row. And they've been trying to get business done and they can't because they can't ever have a quorum.
I understand that. I guess I was just curious because it sounded very vague.
Yeah,
You know,
no.
so-
Once they've missed, I actually think it's 3 meetings in a row, then we can actually take that.
Yeah, I did the same thing on the Waterway Commission, removed one.
We did the same thing on the Rec 7 board.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And also, in addition to that, typically, the gentleman or whosoever that's getting removed from the board would come to the meeting and state his case, if there was any opposition.
That was actually the question I was wondering about, if anybody can notify him that he was up for being removed.
They usually know.
Okay.
They figured it out.
Okay.
I've removed someone before and they were notified, in advance.
Okay,
So-
thanks.
Okay, so is there any discussion on this particular agenda item here? Modifying the flood damage prevention ordinance? Okay, so I got a few questions too, but come on up, man. Let's get you first.
I'm coming with this too, so this is my
Just
first
introduce yourself and state where you're from and
I'm
just
Vanessa
talk.
Thompson, I live on Northville Road. And so concerning the flooding and stuff, we had major flooding in 16, just about everybody on our road flooded this time, in 16. And, I just wanted to ask a question about when we've got a lot of lowland. So when you are saying that you're gonna put a restriction on the dirt, how much dirt you can bring in, is it possible to have a consideration that when you're in these really low areas, that you'd have to build on piers? You know, so that water could flow through instead of having to go around all this dirt, you know?
I think the deal is that we're gonna allow you to put 24, 36 in those areas if you can't justify it, you can't do the field mitigation or can't show that there's no impact. We're not stopping them from building. Everything from that point on will either be dropped, be a chain wall with a brick ledge or pier and beam. And so you can have the combination of putting a 24-inch pile of dirt or a 36-inch pile of dirt. And then any elevation you need to reach above that would have to either be then a chain wall or pier and beam at that point in time.
Yeah. Because we just, I mean, you know, we're bayous and swamp and everything,
And then-
so it looks like, you know, we have to build on.
Right. And then anything in the floodway or certain flood zones, I mean, if you're in the floodway, you're gonna have to do a no-rise certificate, and the only way to justify that, I believe, Chad, is his own pier and beam, am I right?
Yeah, you'd have to do that basically to get the no rise,
And we've talked about that quite a bit since the flood, and if it's in a floodway or a floodplain, I think that's in place. They can't just fill it all up and then put something on a huge dirt mound. Now they can for sure.
Well, I know like Charles Holden Road, you know, there's some land right, I mean, that is all low and flooded.
Yep.
And they've got a guy right there on the corner, you know, he brought in dirt. I don't know the man, so I'm not speaking against him. He's got his dirt, that's fine. But you just filled in all that big low land.
That's what we're trying to stop.
Yeah, you gotta work it kind of slowly because it's such a shock to the construction
But it
industry.
seems like
Yeah.
after the flood, then people just started hauling in dirt.
Yeah,
Yep.
it happened all across the whole parish, and it's just, it has to stop. We have got to put the brakes on this. And, you know, when we're in this one low area, it's gotta be pier and beam.
Building.
Yeah,
And I think it's gonna be on piers.
yeah.
So, okay, thank y'all.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Is there any more discussion from the audience? Okay, I got something to say, guys.
You the man.
I know that a lot of our work has went into this ordinance, and there's a lot of really good things in here to protect people of Livingston Parish from future flooding. But I would like more time to study the current ordinance and the modifications here. Because this is greatly gonna affect a lot of people in this parish, you know, on what they can and can't do with their property, and if they do want to do things with their property, the cost associated with doing those things. And so, and everybody's certainly entitled to their opinion. I just would like to say, I would like a little more time to study this and to make sure that we have every T crossed and every I dotted to make sure that this is just right, to make sure that we don't
I think we
hinder
can go with
people's
it right
rights,
Well, I
you
mean,
know, to
go ahead, I'm sorry.
to do things, you know, with their property, you know. A lot of people bought property years ago, you know, with intention to, you know, divide it up and maybe put their kids on it and build houses and all these different things, you know, and they saved and worked and they have just enough money to put, you know, the dirt on there. And I would like to just do a little bit more discussion on the cost associated for someone, you know, to follow this ordinance and do those things, you know, because this is a big one for us. This one's huge. And so, and that's just my thought on it. So I would like a couple of more weeks just to study it and see if there's any more changes that need to be made, and before we move forward with this. And so I stated my case. If anybody else has
We've
anything to
done
say.
that on our side, though. It's time to go.
All due respect, I mean, this thing's been on the agenda for like 2 months. I mean, we've talked about it for, over 2 months, and, we've addressed things. We've had our review engineer look at it, go over it. Chad, you want to step up? You got any really concern? I mean, we've tried to address those individuals who live on large pieces of property. We've tried to address, we're not restricting construction on any piece of property. I mean, any piece of property out there that can be built now will be able to be built after the fact. The only thing we're doing is stopping the net effect of a ton of anthills all over this parish, and maybe Chad can explain
Affecting the
the
neighbors.
total impact of piling dirt up.
Yeah, I mean, nothing's gonna be perfect with this, and maybe something that we have to tweak after you get something started. I mean, I think.
I couldn't hear you, Chad. Can you
Oh,
speak up a little bit?
Nothing may be perfect with this. I mean, you may have to adopt something if it's not working out, or you see something's not working right, you may have to tweak it some. But, I think it's a good start. I think, we typically, as a review engineer, look at cases where y'all got large creeks and canals and subdivisions are getting built, and make sure there's no impact on the flood zones along those major creeks and waterways. But, this just takes it to another level. I think we're trying to simplify it. There's two options. There's two options that are listed in that ordinance. And the first one, I think, is a fairly simple calculation that, most individuals can probably do without hiring an engineer and doing all the extra steps, which is the second option, I think. But, anyway, I think it's something that was drafted. I mean, it's definitely beneficial for the parish and not having people build, and throw dirt, in areas that are flood zones and floodways.
And I agree with that, and we have had several ordinance committee meetings, and y'all have worked extremely hard, but the truth is the changes that were made, I mean, this is the first time I've looked at them. Shame on me, but I mean, I don't think they were emailed out to everybody to read in advance and to study and make sure that, I just think this was a big one, and I think that we need more time.
All we did was move it around from just further down in there and push it up into the actual ordinance, right,
I
Gary?
think basically what we did is we restrict, originally it called for a full-blown drainage impact study. And based on the cost, we scaled back from a full-blown drainage impact study for an exception to, a description that Chad and Morgan worked on to address what they felt comfortable with, to make an evaluation on the impact of the neighbors. So we're still at the same 24 inches, we're still at the 36 inches. I think we moved section C up into both lots, and then we did the wording change.
We have time to work on it.
This is just an introduction. We've still got 2 weeks. We've got another ordinance committee meeting that hopefully we'll have a quorum next time and we can discuss, and then we can vote on it. How long are we gonna keep kicking the can down the road? I don't really wanna flood again. I flooded once, I really don't wanna flood again. I mean, it's time for us to address the problems that we've had, and we'll all admit that there's some things we're not sophisticated enough to do yet. But to keep kicking the can down the road is ridiculous.
I'm not trying to kick the can, I'm just saying that I just saw this, recently, and I would just like to study it some more to make sure that we're right. I got another question real quick, guys. And I'm just trying to educate myself so I can make sure that I make the right decision here. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if you have some private property that's subdivided, and you want to go build a house, okay? So you go and you apply for the permit and all this kind of stuff. You go build your house pad, and if it's, below base flood elevation, you got to bring it up and all this kind of stuff, and then it gets reviewed by the inspector and all this kind of stuff. But the parish review engineer group does not get involved in any way, shape, or form on that. But they're heavily involved with modifying this ordinance, requiring that, that you can only bring in the dirt, to a certain level. And so I'm not saying anything in here is not totally legit and that this is not a positive move for Livingston Parish. All I'm saying is I would just like a little bit of time. I'm really gonna try to spend several hours over the next 2 weeks to study the current ordinance and then these modifications that'll be applied to it to make sure that we don't need to go back and review it again, you know? I mean, I just would hate to
If
not
we
get it
just-
right, but if,
You gonna do it? You gonna?
No,
but y'all go ahead. Y'all go ahead.
Look, I'm willing to let it go forward because it's an introduction as it stands. But, and forgive my ignorance because I will defer to you on this because it's engineering, but if you dig a pond on your property and it's not a retention, it's where it's a pond, when it fills up and it stays full and then it rains again, it might as well be dirt. I mean, what are you really retaining? Unless that pond goes back down, are you?
There are ways to put overflow and that kind of stuff.
I'm just saying, and look, I'm.
But in order to
there
do
might be a
that, you gotta
simple answer to
get an
that. I don't
engineering
know.
group involved, and you gotta pay for that engineering group and all that type of stuff. And you currently today don't have to do that.
Well,
You
there's
know,
a
so-
problem in the parish right now with
Maybe
flooding,
s-
Shane.
maybe so, maybe so.
And and like I said, in principle, I'm willing to go forward because it's not gonna become law today. But I would like to know if you build a pond and that pond cannot drain, then it's gonna stay more or less full, then you get another heavy rain, that might as well be
Might as well all
dirt.
on concrete. Yeah, 'cause
It might as
it's
well be
gonna run
dirt.
out. Yep.
So I need answers on that. So, but, I mean, you don't have to give that all
He
to me
can
right
probably
now
hit you
unless you
right
want
now.
to. I mean, I'm willing to let it go forward today because it's just an introduction, correct? So,
Yeah.
Well, the thing I'd like to say about that real quick is, if we introduce it tonight as is, and then we study it over the next 2 weeks, and we see that we need to make serious changes, you have to go back and amend that ordinance, and that creates a extremely large amount of work, and it kind of muddies the water in trying to get the ordinance right. To me, the best thing to do is go back and get this thing right the first time. To the best you can. I mean, I know nothing's perfect, you know, but I'm just saying, to me, the best thing to do is just give it 2 more weeks. Let's all commit to studying it hard and making sure we got it right and reviewing it, you know, asking those questions we need. Now that we have the final copy, we just got the final copy, you know, over the last maybe couple of days, and let's make sure that we got this thing right. And that's just my thought, you know. If I want to move forward as a group, majority wants to move forward, we move forward.
I got a motion. I don't know if I have a second, but I do.
Okay, I've said my piece. Is any more discussion from the audience?
I think we need to do it now.
Okay, come on in, come on in. You can just,
I'm Vanessa Thompson, I'm on North Ball Road. I just wanted to know, how do we as the public get a copy of the ordinance that maybe we can study also?
we can make some copies before we leave. We'll run it back and make
Of
some
the
copies now.
original and then
you could
what's in-
maybe request it. Well, the original that's currently law should be able to be downloaded from the Livingston Parish website, Munisite system. And then the proposed modifications, you know, you request a copy, maybe we email it or something. To the Livingston Parish Council clerks. Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Gary Talbert to introduce this ordinance. And then we have a second by Mr. Scooter King. And if there's no more discussion from the council, I call for the vote.
Mr. Ard?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Greenhouse?
yes.
Mr. Talbert?
Yes.
Mr. Mike?
No.
Mr. Westland is absent. Mr. Lovell?
I'm going no.
Mr. Harris?
No.
Mr. Everett?
No.
Just split. So same thing.
It dies because it tied, so it didn't.
So we have to hold on. Anyhow.
It
that's
doesn't mean
okay.
it completely dies, it just means we
No,
postponed
yeah,
it.
that's right. We're just gonna have to wait 2 weeks.
Well, I flooded. I did too. And I know a lot of people in this parish have flooded. And I would just like to look at this ordinance a little bit more. You know, just to see.
Yeah, you know, that's fine. Oh,
I do think we need to keep something in mind with this. You know, we've got to start looking at this about the people that's living here now and that's been living here.
Absolutely.
And not the people that's gonna build here next month.
Right.
Because I've got people that are flooding because across the street, they're building 10-foot mounds and putting houses on them. And the people that's been living there for 30 years are flooding.
With no,
And we
no
have to do
restraint on it
something
at
to
all.
stop that.
We have to, I agree.
We have to do
And I
something.
said the same thing. I was okay with moving this forward. I just wanted that question answered, and I'm sure I would get that
Yeah, you
answer.
would get it into, yeah.
I would get that answer in the next 2
So
weeks.
now we have to get it, and we'll get any answers, and you get more questions, send them out. Cause
So,
I think I might be able to answer that. If you just dig a pond and you don't put the engineering design into it to where it, maintains that certain level to where it can absorb the runoff and then creep off slowly, it's just the same as what you're thinking.
it's just,
Whether you got a pond or not,
it
it didn't do you any good. It's more of a, just a
Did y'all
recreational pond.
read the ordinance? It basically says you can only pile up the dirt based on the space that you have in the pond.
I just wanna read it again, that's all.
You can put a pipe in there. and
You did-
how many cubic feet it has.
You worked hard, you did an awesome job,
Yeah,
Gary.
well,
right.
the thing is,
Okay, so
all
let's
these
move forward.
developments,
Yeah,
They're, like they said, they piling up dirt across the street from these people that's been there forever, and they flooded, and now it's gonna make them flood that much worse.
And we've delayed the process so we can issue 20 more building permits next week to put 20 more piles of dirt up. I'm just telling you, we are,
yeah, I
all
know,
we're
don't
doing is
think
kicking
20's
the,
gonna hurt
we're
nobody in
kicking,
this parish.
we kicking the can down the road. It's time to put our big boy pants on and fix
I
the
agree.
problem, but no,
I
we're gonna kick it 2 more weeks down the road.
yep.
Okay, so, meeting's not quite over. We have,
I don't disagree, Mr. Tyler. I was just wanting that question.
Oh, I mean, I understand, and that was put in there in an effort to allow those individuals with large tracts of land to not have to hire an engineer, but to be able to offset, to do fill mitigation within their own property. I mean, that was put in there by Morgan and Chad to allow individuals who had a large piece of property to do fill mitigation on their own property, to allow them to dig a pad based on the fact that they had space to offset that dirt in the pond. So, I mean, trust me, 2 weeks ago, we sat here and talked about the cost of a drainage impact study. I mean, the original proposal was 24 inches and 36. And then people felt that you should be able to go higher than 36, so we went with the drainage impact study. Then we have people complaining about the cost of a drainage impact study, so we go to the engineers and say, what can we do with respect to, a specific thing that they can do without having to hire a full-blown drainage impact study, which could cost $5,000 a lot. Ford and DeBlata, our review engineers, came up with the wording on A and B to specifically allow for the elimination of the standard of the drainage impact study. That was the reason for A and B to be introduced. If you did fill mitigation in your own property, then you were exempt. Or you met the qualifications of B, which is basically a modified drainage impact study that Morgan felt would probably cost less than $1,000. So in essence, what we're telling you, what this ordinance would allow, that if you had a piece of property and you were needing to pile dirt on it to get to a particular point, depending on the size, you could put 24 inches or 36 inches of dirt. If you felt you needed to do more because you didn't want to do a chain wall or didn't want to do pier and beam, you could either do fill mitigation upon your own property, or you could hire an engineer to do an evaluation and basically say where you're not negatively impacting your neighbor through before and after calculations on stormwater runoff. I don't even have it in front of me. Tell us the difference and why it was gonna be substantially cheaper than a full-blown drainage impact study.
Well, I think that's your initial conversation, Gary, with the volume difference, the storage volume, and just proving that difference. From what he was asking, I guess the whole thing Gary was talking about earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Your water level in the pond's gonna be lower depending on where your outfall pipe is, so that's the difference we need to have, where the water surface is to the top of the
So
pond.
that's all you really would need to engineer, is that you had enough freeboard to make up for the dirt.
That's it, right.
That's
right.
all.
From wherever your water level is,
Okay.
you need to have that same volume of pond that you're offset on your pad, on your house pad.
So if you had a 3-foot static increase between the static water level of the pond and the top of bank was 3 foot, and you had a pond that had a surface area of X, then you would have 3x as the amount of cubic foot, amount of dirt that you could pile up, as long as there was a net zero effect.
I got you.
So that was, I mean, the whole modification to the
Well, to save
ordinance
money
that they came up
for the
with
people that
was
are-
to allow the consumers within the district, or the individuals within the district, the parish, who wanted to put dirt on their property, to save them money. I mean, the whole purpose, we could have left it at the drainage impact study, and anybody could have done anything if they had $5,000. What we're trying to do is protect the people that are here, and yet make it as cost effective as possible
Yeah.
for the people that are coming in to do the
That
deal.
don't
That
take-
was the whole
Yeah,
reason for
it
the
does,
change.
but, and that's why I said I was willing to let it
Yeah,
move
that's
forward.
why it
I
didn't
just
hurt to
wanted the
introduce it,
explanation.
because those are simple answers.
And you
Okay.
know what? That really sounds really good, and I just wanted to make sure that everything was in writing and we're good to go
I
on
think
that.
what
I
you're
mean,
saying, Gary, sounds great, and it does.
It
Also,
does. I
next
just
2
wanna make
weeks
sure we
ain't
got it
gonna
right. That's all I'm
but
saying.
We're gonna be,
Yeah, either way,
it's gonna work
yeah.
out.
Come on.
Hopefully they don't, but like you said, it could be 20 people in a week. But that's
Okay, so,
All right, next.
So,
Maybe they all gonna be.
Finance Committee meeting,
You're
we got any comments on that?
No.
No comments? All right, are there any councilman comments?
I think every high school in the parish, softball team made the playoffs, so.
Live Oak made the playoffs?
Good luck to all them. Yep, Live Oak's playing Santa Monica, and, so.
Hey, it's ball, and can anybody win any of them games?
And I think Dole done won, and, I think, Albany won tonight, so they're moving on.
That's what I'm talking about.
Springfield plays tomorrow, so we'll see.
All right, cool.
I have something to
Okay,
say.
go ahead, Mr. Tracy.
I wanted to address see, there were some people talking about the master plan committee meeting that occurred on Monday night. Essentially, and the way I phrased it in the meeting was incorrect. So, I mean, I hold full responsibility for the way that meeting occurred, or the way that happened. We have 9 members on this committee, and a lot of them most of them have never met each other at all. The first order of business in a public meeting is to elect officers, chairman, co-chairman, and the secretary. That is hard to do if you don't know each other, if you have never met. So the purpose of that meeting that night was more or less a greet. They get together, I'm so-and-so, I'm from this area, this is what I have in mind, this is my background. They were all given a copy of, was it Vision?
Master plan.
Yeah, Envision Livingston.
Yeah.
You think of the master plan, and just told them, hey, if you don't already have a copy, or if you haven't received one, here it is. Read it, go through it, because none of these people really know each other. But the first thing they do in a public meeting is they're going to have to elect officers. They do. So if you don't know someone, who are you going to have confidence in? So they came in, they introduced themselves, they were given a copy of the document. No policy was made. It was more or less, hey, you've met everybody. Be thinking about who you want to fill these officers' position, because that person, first public meeting is going to be, all right, we call it to order, and then they're going to elect. Someone's going to make a motion to elect the chairman. Someone's going to make someone's going to second that motion or elect them. Then he's going to sit down and take over the meeting. They're starting from scratch, and so the first meeting was intended to be just like a meet and greet, if you will. It wasn't published, so there was no notice, and you have to have those for a public meeting. But this wasn't a public meeting, and that's my bad. I mean, I shouldered that completely. It was, I said it was tentatively for that day, and it just didn't happen that way. I'm not, would like to ask the public to understand there's no subversion here. There's nothing like that. We want the public to be there. We want your input. We need your input on this. We need this to happen. And, you know, so the meeting now, I think, is set for May 7th at 6 p.m. It's going to be in this chamber, and it's going to be open to the public. It will be a public meeting. And you'll see the first thing they do is they're going to, I guess, they're discussing among themselves who they would like to be the officers, but that has to happen. I wasn't at the meeting, or I wasn't at the greet and meet everything. Mr. Ard was, because he's on the board. He says that everything was just, hey, nice to meet you. Here's your copy of Envision Livingston. People talked about where they were, talked about who they were to each other, what their backgrounds were. I know that my representative on the committee is very well versed in this. And there's a lot of things that need to be covered in that. And it's not just zoning, but zoning has to be basically redone completely, from the original plan. It would be an injustice if we just adopted it the way it is. A complete injustice, and it would not tackle the problems that plague, the parish, but primarily my district, Mr. Avers' district. Because it's essentially just the corridor. Do y'all have a copy of it? I know y'all do. So that's not going to help us, as it's written. I don't think so. It's my opinion as far as zoning goes. So I apologize for the way that fell out, but there was nothing malicious about that at all. It was really just a way for these people to get together, to meet each other, shake hands. This is who I am. This is where I'm from. This is what I do. Here's your copy. Here's your copy of Envision Livingston, and be thinking about how you want to, who you want to be the chairman, the co-chair, and the secretary. Someone to keep minutes. So that's it. The full-blown public meeting will be May 7th. And I encourage not just the people here, but the people watching on TV to come, give your input. The master plan, in my opinion, is a must. And then we can build from that to a parish that we can lay out to be more effective in every regard. Drainage, development, sewer. I mean, it's really a great document, but the document needs to be revised. So that's it. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Tracy.
The master plan, Envision Livingston, is on our website, and on the homepage, there's a little blurb that says where they can find it.
Okay.
Did everybody hear what she said? She said that the master plan is on the Livingston Parish website. What else did you say, Angie?
There's a little blurb on the homepage that just says where you can access it, and it's broken into chapters.
Oh, so you don't have to look, yeah.
So it's,
you can just pick it.
so it's very accessible
Cool.
to those who have the internet.
Question in the back.
So we have a question in the back.
Two things, actually. I don't know if you saw my hand during the
Many as you want.
finance portion. So I just want to address that first since it was on first is with regard to, I'm just going to address you, Mr. Greenhouse, this is you're the finance committee guy, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Old business and new business, don't you find that just slightly vague? If you listed here on your agenda or on your public notice, it says the agenda for this evening is your roll call, and then you have number 3 is old business and number 4 being new business. And I'm just wondering, like, do you feel like it's necessary to expound a little bit on what you're actually going to talk about and what has been talked about previously? with regard to the finance committee?
I mean, I asked every member here, did they have anything? And the old business, which was the new business at the last meeting, was talked in great detail.
Okay.
So, just reading it for what it is, I absolutely agree, it's very vague, but.
Basically, old business, when you say old business, we would basically put, if we needed to discuss some old business, we would list it under.
Absolutely. So
And
there
then
was
as
no
new business, we
to-
listed.
Yeah, there was new business.
There was. Okay,
Yes.
but didn't put it, no.
Well,
You didn't
just
put
a
it in
check,
writing.
it was just a check register and the actual,
That happens every one. She goes.
They do a comparison to the numbers the previous year and say where we're at, if we go forward, are we behind, are we ahead? And then we have a detailed list of the expenditures.
Okay, I appreciate that. And also wanted to thank you for your explanation regarding the master plan meet and greet thing.
And look, and I own that, I do, that was my bad.
I'm all about personal responsibility, so I appreciate that, and I don't necessarily agree with you in just one point, and I just want to express that concern is you had a meet and greet in our public tax-paid building, and my question is this: do you not think that the voters and constituents and people of Livingston Parish would benefit from knowing who these people are? I mean, you said that they don't know each other, they don't know their backgrounds, they introduced themselves, and they were able to say why they would make a good fit for the committee and a member therein. But
Sure.
we don't have that information.
I absolutely, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, that's it.
I'm sorry, I absolutely agree they can. They can come to the public meeting. They will be here before and after, and you can ask them any questions all, but I do think it's more important that they know each other first. You could appoint, all of them are just people in the public. They're not getting paid. They're here. And I felt like they needed an opportunity to get to know each other, because putting the chairman in place is important.
No, that's huge. I agree.
And they can, these people of this committee, they will be open, they'll be open for discussion for anybody at any time. Certainly mine will.
Right.
And if you come prior to the meeting or you stay after the meeting, they will field any questions that you have. Mine will, for certain. I mean, and I felt like every one of them will. I do believe, though, that it's important that they get together amongst themselves and just, no policy was made.
Right.
No
I
policy
understand
was
that, but
discussed.
do you think that it was proper to have it here rather than maybe, a conference room at a restaurant or?
You can have the next one at my house, Tracy.
Well, I'll tell you this, when I got to the meeting, probably 10 minutes into it, I was sent a text that someone was trying to get in the building. Unfortunately, because when out of habit, I come in here, I turn my phone aside.
Yeah.
So I didn't know it went off. But then they called me, did you get my text? No, I didn't. So you can ask anybody in the meeting. I got up while they were talking. I walked all the way around the building to look to see if anybody was here, and nobody was here.
Right.
Now, this was probably 45 minutes into it by the time I did that. But I did come looking.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Look, we certainly don't want, we're not trying, and I've said it, I'm not trying to be, we're not trying to be covert and subvert. If I was gonna do that, I wouldn't have had it here.
Yeah.
I just wanted, and I just want an opportunity for them to get together. And to where they could talk to each other, see who knows. I know personally, my representative was involved when it was originally drawn up. He has forgotten more about it than most people will ever know. And so I thought it was important. He was on planning. Planning had an appointment. So I didn't really put an appointment on because he would have been my appointment. So I don't know, he's planning's, but he's mine too. And I wanted them and everyone to get to know each other, because there's going to be opinions, and it's going to be differentiating.
I think you had three.
I know, I messed that up. I get nervous still sometimes. But I do believe that the master plan committee isn't about should we do it. It's about how we're going to do it, because we're going to do it. You know, we're going to do it, and it's going to be done right. And it's going to be it's going to take a little time, because you just can't redraw that map. I mean, you can't go say, well, not this, you know, not this. We're going to do all this, or we're going to do that. You have to have someone come out and actually do that, and it's going to cost some money. But we're going to do it because it's absolutely necessary for this parish to move forward, to do the things that I know you want done, I know y'all want done. And so it's, you know, it's time, you know, for that to happen. I wish it would have happened back in the late 80s. You know, then where I live, where you live, wouldn't be in the, you know, the crisis that we're in, because it's a crisis. You know, but we're going to go forward with this. So I absolutely 100% want your input here. I want you there. I want questions, because sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And, you know, someone can point it out to you. Yeah.
So, I appreciate it, Mr.
And
Right, thank you.
Me and my wife have read every single line.
Thank you.
She's gone through it with a fine tooth comb and highlighted things that she thinks
Yeah.
is very important.
Excellent.
And did you see me the other day?
I did. White truck, right? All right, thank you.
All right.
Ma'am.
I think it's item number 23, adjourned.
Before you do that,
Oh, okay.
I want to remind everybody that Saturday is the benefit for Senator Chloe Fontenot, Crazy Days. I think they're going to actually have a couple of locations, Carter's and Denham, a couple of, I wish I had them with me, but they're going to actually serve plates at the other locations, so you don't have to come here.
You can pick them up.
Try to
if you don't-
spread them out, so it'll be a big
Chicken, ribs,
cooking competition
pasta,
with chicken, ribs, pasta, jambalaya. Then they're going to sell everything to raise money for him. And I did hear word that he might possibly get released Friday to come home.
Oh, man.
So
And I can also tell you, it's very
he is doing it.
difficult, as Mr. Ard can contest, to tell one jambalaya for another after you've ate 30 samples.
It is fairly hard.
After you've
So,
ate 30 different samples from 30 different people,
But
you're looking
come
for
see
one
us
that
out
tastes a
Crazy
little
Days
bit
Saturday.
different.
I'm gonna be there.
Yeah.
You're gonna be, I mean, how many people gonna be
So
there?
anybody that come out and help that family, it would be huge.
right.
And the last thing is, once again, Walker High School made history. We are the first school in history to have a young lady and a young man be named Mr. Basketball in the state of Louisiana in the same year. And that's Miss Tyra Young, which she's a senior, she's gonna be going to LSU. And Mr. Jalen Cook, which is a junior, and he's got a lot of options.
A bunch of different.
And also, his father is a classmate of mine and Mr. Ard, so.
Well, that,
And I'm sure we'll have them here sooner or later in the
yes,
future.
yeah, that'd be good.
Yep.
All right. I'm
Now I'm
motion.
done.
All right. Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
We have a motion by Mr. Scooter
adjourn.
Keene to adjourn this Livingston Parish Council meeting. We have a second by Mr. Tab Lobel. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
No.